Hey Beacon, welcome home to your Bounce Back Blueprint Community podcast, where you are challenged to be, do, and have God's best as you thrive on your journey from setback to success. I'm your Bounce Back guide, Tiffany Huff Struthers, and I'll be guiding you on the journey by sharing tips, tools, and the tea on how I was able to bounce back from escaping death, healing from heartbreak, and finding hope in homelessness. And then I wrote an award-winning book all about it. And shout out to God, ever since I was courageous enough to share my story, my life and the lives of women around the world have been forever changed. And as a member of the Bounce Back Blueprint community, I'm called to teach you to do the same. So grab your journal and let's build this blueprint. Hey Beacon, hey, it's your Bounce Back guide here, Tiffany. And before we dig into building the blueprint this week, I wanted to take a moment and invite you to join us over in the Bounce Back Blueprint community. We are a welcoming, sacred space where you are going to have all the support you need to begin to do the work, the good, the bad, and everything in between. We are going to help you on this journey of finding your voice and sharing your story and building a business that not only blesses other but has major impact on your own life. So grab the link in the show notes and join us over there. And of course, before we dig in, I want to bless you with this week's review. Have you left a review yet? I really want to encourage you to do so if you haven't. It takes about 2 minutes. I would love to shout you out here and provide the community with your feedback. And also, when you do, you are creating an opportunity for another beacon to find this podcast and the community and get the guidance and support she needs on her journey from test to testimony. So this week, I am excited to share the review from Drea Lopes. Hopefully, I'm saying your name right. And Drea says, a great reminder that setbacks are just a path in the right direction. No reason not to thrive in the midst of those hard times. Tiffany is your gal. P.S. Love that you call yourself your bounce back guide. So fitting. Shout out to you, Drea, for taking a moment to leave that review and blessing each and every one of us with it. I pray that you continue to be blessed by what is shared here on the podcast, and today should be no exception. I am really excited to bring today's guest to you. Lakeenah Le'Shae, recently published author and one of my Right for Your Life clients, and she is going to be sharing with you all about the power of broken pieces. Let me tell you a little bit about Lakeenah Le'Shae. Lakeenah Le'Shae, affectionately known as Tink, is an overcomer, a believer, a mom, and author of the newly released book, Broken Pieces, which chronicles her journey as a young woman determined to survive through it all. Love, loss, pain, divorce, death, and an unimaginable. She is a lover of people, of God, her family, and a lover of serving from the heart. She hopes to inspire others who are going through to believe in and love themselves first and be comforted that they are always enough, no matter what. Without further ado, I give you The Power of Broken Pieces with Lakeenah Le'Shae. All right, ladies, I'm excited to bring you today's guest, Ms. Lakeenah Le'Shae. Of course, I've already given you her official bio, but I think we do the best at introducing ourselves. So, Lakeenah, welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have you. And please tell the Bounce Back Blueprint community, who is Lakeenah Le'Shae?
Hey Tiff, thanks for having me. I'm so excited and nervous at the same time. But Lakeenah Le'Shae is a God-fearing woman and a mother of two that just wants to be an example for the world of what it looks like to be able to go through and come on the other side and overcome. So that's
Yes.
me.
Yes, a prime example of moving from your test to your testimony.
Yes, absolutely.
And congratulations on the publication on your new book
Thanks, Tiff. I'm
and your launch
excited.
event. I'm super excited for you.
Thank you. I'm so excited. I'm so happy and so glad that I didn't give up. So I thank you for all the support that you've given me. So yeah, I'm excited. Definitely.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't going to let you give up. I was not going to let you give up. You know, sometimes the journey takes a while, right? And we
It
have to
does.
be willing to stay committed to the vision without being committed to the way that the journey goes, right? Because the journey
Yes.
always has peaks and valleys. So let's talk a little bit about your journey to becoming an author. How did you get started on this journey?
So I started 3 years. It took me 3 years and 7 months to actually do it. So I started writing January, I want to say that was January of 17. And I just started writing on my laptop. And I didn't know how it was going to happen. I was just writing, and I'm not a typer. So I was just writing. It was taking me forever to do it. And then I just decided to start writing in a book. And then I started to speak in the microphone on the laptop so I can get out faster. So it just started one time when I felt like something was nudging me to write. It was something that kept nudging me to write. So I just started writing, and I didn't know where it was going, where I was starting at, where I was going to end, what I was going to put in, what all I was going to tell. But I just started writing
So that was
in
that was almost 4 years ago.
almost 4 years.
So you started that January, and then what happened?
I started it in January, and then I kept it to myself because I didn't want people to be honest, hold me accountable
Mm-hmm.
for writing it. I wanted it to just to be me and my thoughts, because I didn't want people to start saying, "Well, when's it coming out? What are you doing? What can I?" I didn't want that because I didn't know when I was going to stop writing.
Okay.
I did not know when I was going to stop writing, so I didn't tell anybody.
And that's an important, I'm glad that you said that and that you're being honest about that, because especially when you have a personal testimony to share, it's already pressure that is
Right.
associated with it. So being able to say honestly that you weren't ready for accountability, I think is huge for anybody who's listening who is just now starting the journey, that there is no
Hmm.
guilt to be associated with that. You know, everybody has to run their race at their pace.
Yes, and
But at
that's
some,
so
I'm
important.
sorry, but at some point, you did get to the place where you told somebody or you needed some accountability, right?
Yes, I started telling people when it got a little harder. And one time I was at church, and it was church is always it for me. I just can't even get away from that. But I was at church, and this pastor came and started talking to me, and he was telling me all this stuff. He was from Philly, and he was telling me that you got to do what you got to do. You're something that God told you to do, and you're not doing it. And I didn't know what he
Mm.
was talking about, because that was at the beginning of my spiritual journey of me connecting with God and saying yes. So when he said that to me, and I was like, I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know what he's trying to get at. But then another incident happened where this lady told me that I needed to write my book. I needed to finish my book. And when she did that, that's when I started talking to people a little bit and saying that this lady told me I needed to finish my book.
Did you connect it to the pastor when she told you that?
I start putting it all together.
Okay.
I start
Okay.
putting it all together, like he is really chasing me down, but he's getting my attention on my
Mm.
level. So I said, God is really chasing me down, but I hadn't been saved yet. I don't think I was water baptized yet, but I felt like he was starting to chase me down, and I start connecting the dots. And when I start connecting the dots, I was like, oh my gosh, this is really, really happening. So I was telling people, and then I got tired of telling people because it was taking
Mm.
me time to get it out. And I was just like, oh my goodness, but that was what I needed at the time. At the beginning, I didn't need that. But when I start telling people, it kept pushing me to write more and stay up late and get up early, and, think of titles and think of all this different stuff to put into my book and take out. So it was just like it was starting to happen. Things were starting to download in my spirit.
Mm. It's interesting that you said you started telling people, but then you stopped again because it was taking too long. And if you think back to when you were
Mm-hmm.
having your children? Because I think about this, and you know how a lot of people say like they don't tell anybody they're pregnant at first because they aren't sure. Like in those first trimester, you could
Yes.
miscarry, you could have complications, so you don't want to tell anybody because it does take long to have a baby, especially when
It
you're the
does.
one carrying that big old
Yes.
baby, right?
So
And it was it's kind of the same thing with your book, right? Like it's taken so long, you don't want to
mm-hmm.
keep saying like I'm pregnant, I'm pregnant, I'm pregnant, I'm pregnant.
Yeah,
You rather
for
just be
four
like the
years.
baby's here.
Yes, and that's what I wanted. And when I start feeling like, oh my, and it's you're absolutely right. It felt like birthing a baby. Tiff, that's how I felt because just to speed up a little bit, when I got finished with my book launch, I was so drained. And you know how they want to keep the baby um in the
In the
room in,
nursery.
in the nursery so the mother can rest. I
Yes.
had to rest for literally 2 weeks after, probably longer, after my launch because I was so tired. I was so tired. There was nothing, there was fog in my brain. I didn't know what to do. I was tired. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's like
it
birthing a
is
baby.
tiresome. Yes, it is like birthing a baby, but you got to get there, right? And it's kind of like when
Hmm.
when you're in the process, right? So that first trimester usually is rough. Morning sickness and can't sleep, just all the changes with your body. And then in the
Yes.
middle, you kind of get, for some people, you get a rhythm. And then at the end,
Hmm.
it's like, come on, baby, come out.
Absolutely. Yes, that's how it was. Yes, I was scared, nervous, then I got comfortable. Like you said, the morning sickness started going away, and that went away when people were like when I had some stuff on paper. And I would let a few of my coworkers that said they knew how to edit and different things. This is before I met, hooked up with you, and they were giving me feedback. And that was like they were giving me food to get through because I remember when I was pregnant with
The
my kids,
nourishment.
yes, I needed that. I needed the nourishment. Like, oh, this is so good, but this is what you can do. Or I did the grammar part or something like that. Or I put your commas, whatever. So I needed to be nourished. It was like the second trimester when it was starting to feel good and I could speak on it again.
So what happened that you decided to reach out to me to get some help with your process?
I felt like I hit a brick wall and I had been following this person, that person, everybody on social media. So my social media was just for me to get my inspiration, to get some direction on where I need to do and what I need to do with my book. So I was like, okay, I need to do something. And I hadn't talked to you in a long time, Tiff. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I came across your page and I seen how you were like, I felt like we were aligned together
Mm.
because I was like, okay, she's spiritual. She's speaking this and she's putting her Bible verses up and, it's feeding my spirit. So my spirit started getting fed. And then that's when I was like, okay, I'm reaching out to Tiff.
And I think
And I
it's
was
so
on
important
vacation.
that wow, you're on vacation?
I was on vacation in California when I reached out to you.
I think it's so important that you pointed out that alignment. And that's something that I always tell people when you're working with a coach, and even when you get past the point of working with a coach, when you start to work with your editor, you have to have synergy. You have to have some alignment with that person because this is like your baby, right? It's like
Hmm.
when you get
Hmm.
ready to choose your gynecologist or your
Yes.
pediatrician or send your baby to a childcare provider, right? You have
Right.
to do your due diligence and make sure that they have the same values that you have so that your child or your baby is being nurtured properly. So,
Absolutely. And that's what I had with you. And that's what I felt that I had with you. Not because I knew you from back then, because this is different for our relationship is different now from
yes,
then.
yes,
So it was just
absolutely.
like
We're different too.
we are. And we are so different. And it's but so different, but we're so much alike with each
Yes,
other. So
yes.
that synergy you were talking about is very important. And I will say that to anybody that's wanting to do this journey, that is so important because you gave me your realness. You told me how it was. You held me accountable. Like you said, you kept me going. And I like that you was able to talk to me like we've been talking for years and didn't hold back. Tink, you need to do this. Or Tink, quit tripping. So I need that. Like I need that. So, that synergy is very, very important.
So let's
So
talk about the journey a little bit. So when we first got started, we did the VIP day, right? And I remember you
Oh,
saying, like, why in the world do I need to be with you for 7, 8 hours?
and it almost been was 9.
Yeah. Well, we,
It,
we had breakfast and lunch.
we had breakfast and lunch, and I could have did dinner. I didn't want to stop.
But
Oh,
initially you were like, what is going to go on here? So can you talk a little bit about that experience?
so whenever it was scheduled, I was like, wait a minute, why? And I'm talking to my friends back and forth, and my mom and the kids, like, I ain't gonna be home. I'm not gonna be home for a while, but I don't think it's gonna take that long because I'm pretty, I talk pretty fast, and it was nothing what I expected, but all of what I needed.
Mm,
Tiff, it was all of what I needed. And the only reason I had to go, and you had something else going on in came in like in midterm
afterwards.
with me afterwards. I didn't want to leave, but I had to go home and be a parent.
Right.
I had to go home and be a parent, but it was like so necessary. It was so, so necessary. And like you said, we had breakfast, we had lunch, we had good conversation. But the things that you told me that I needed to do and I was willing to do, it was so necessary for me to be able to put all my, like, as much as a book I have wrote, if I hadn't
Mm-hmm.
had that VIP day with you, there's no way I would have been able to um, have this book now. There was no way. And the one thing that sticks out with me, and somebody had asked me recently, I said, "You got to dump right. You got to dump right."
Got to do the
And
dump.
you got to do the dump. And when you said the dump right, like that sticks out to me, and my memory's kind of like bad right through here. But you got to dump right. And you said there was something that you can pull out of pretty much every couple paragraphs or every couple words, every
That's
couple lines,
right.
you can pull so much out. And I didn't even realize how much I could pull out of that. Like my book should have been way bigger. Like if I would have like narrowed it, like if I would have narrowed it down to what my story was that I needed to tell in this first book, it could have
Mm-hmm.
been so much bigger.
But when you do
Like
the dump right, it also opens your eyes to see how many more books you have.
exactly. And when we did that dump writing, I was like, oh, this is not my last book.
No,
There's this is not my last book. And then what I had so far in my writing, I didn't even use half of it
that's
that
right.
I could see me putting back into like a second or third book.
Yes.
But it's there, but it's just like, oh my gosh, I took so much out and added so much.
Yes.
So it's definitely real. People need that VIP day. And like I said, I could have been there for longer than 8 hours. I
Yes.
really could have been.
So I did a couple episodes ago talk about how to start writing your book because I believe very strongly in the dumping method. And so just for perspective for those who haven't listened to that episode or aren't familiar, it's really like an extreme brainstorm, right?
Yes.
From
Yes.
which you get umpteen writing prompts and you can begin to formulate your book outline, right?
Hmm.
And
Yes.
then you don't have to worry about what I call the myth of writer's block because you have so many prompts, right? And
Right.
it's
Right.
just like you said, you take all of this stuff out and you use different stuff. It's almost like if you are somebody who cooks, it's like when you have a whole chicken,
Hmm.
you can use the chicken legs, the chicken wings, the drumsticks. You might even be able to use the bones and the
Hmm.
gristle to make gravy or broth, right? And then you can also
Hmm.
stuff the chicken. You can also put
Right.
sides with the chicken. So it's really like taking it all apart and then putting it all back together so that it meets your tastes, right?
Yes. Yes.
So walking away from the VIP day, what was different from when you walked in?
All the insides. All the insides. Like it made me it made me use my brain. It made me remember some things that I discounted or didn't think was important. It made me feel
Mm.
um wow, you really it made me realize that my story I really went through something. Like
The
I
power
was
in your
the
story.
right, I was downplaying my sadness. I was downplaying um my day to day of trying to survive and different things like that. I was downplaying, you know, just a small thing as far as not eating food. I was substituting food for Mountain Dew. I wasn't going to tell that.
Right.
I wasn't going to say that. So it made me realize, like, no, you really had went through something, and
Yes.
you've been sugarcoating it or pulling the wool over your own eyes for so many years just to survive. But no, you need to tell all of that. So all the meat and potatoes are necessary. All
Yes.
the like you said, the bones and the gravy with the gizzards and the
Yes.
heart and all that is what I make my gravy with. So it's so necessary to get those index cards with the colored pens, and do all that and break down. You can get so many chapters out of just one paragraph.
Yes.
So it's
Yes.
so necessary to be transparent with yourself to get all that out. And then whatever you want to take out, put back in, that's up to you. But it's very necessary to do the dump writing and to get rid of that myth, like you said, of the writer's block. There's no, if you're feeling about that you have writer's block, which I thought I had years ago before I came in contact with you in March of 19,
Yes.
you definitely need the VIP session. Definitely.
So after the VIP session, then we started to do like a once a month coaching, and we were doing some back and forth editing with your writing. How was that? Because I know, like I said, once you get into the meat of it, it's like now that you've identified all of these pieces and all of the ingredients for the recipe, you have to deal with them, right?
Hmm.
Like you got to cut the onion, and you might have to cut
Yeah.
onions for months and be crying,
Yeah.
but you got to keep
Yeah.
going, right?
Yeah. It's definitely necessary to cut them onions. It's definitely necessary to cut those onions. And that one-on-one, even though we weren't together, I wanted to come and say, Tiff, can we do this in person? But
Yeah.
we like I wanted more of that VIP. Like you want more of that. And I think you should do that if you haven't already did that, like that in person.
Yes.
But because I needed more of that in person. But the phone was fine. But it was just like I wanted to be there with you.
Yes.
Maybe to even cry on your shoulder. It might have been just personal about me because
Yes.
I know you could give it all to me and your clients. But those were necessary. I think they were I don't know what it was, but they were so necessary because that's when I started being able to put it together.
Yes.
That's
And
when
that
I started seeing,
accountability to keep going, right?
yes, keep going. And that's necessary for the way I like to do things. I need to have somebody hold my hand for a while and then I can do it once I, get it all together and get in the groove of things. But I think anybody writing a book or trying to tell their story or whatever, you need to have your hand being held by somebody um, with the experience and knows how hard the journey is because you wrote your books, but you definitely need somebody to hold your hand or you'll give up like I did multiple times before people even knew about it. Even with you, Tiff, I was ready to give up, but you were on cue. You were on schedule. All right, Tink, the text messages, I'd like to look at it as you were just doing that for me, but I know you'll do all your clients like that. But I felt that connection, so it was okay. But I really wanted to give up. And if you wouldn't have like stayed on me, I wouldn't have did it. I
But you
can
did
honestly
it.
say that. But I
You
did it. I did it. I
you
did it.
did
But
it.
God.
So
So yeah,
tell
that
me,
was needed.
after all of that, how did you decide on your title? So for those of you who don't know, if we didn't mention already, the title of the book is Broken Pieces.
Yes. Um, I was talking to someone else that came at the later end of me doing my book, and we were talking back and forth, and she was telling me that there's a lot of brokenness in your story. You've been broken,
Mm,
you've been built up, you've been more broken than anything. And I was remembering like some of the things that I learned in church, um, that we're all broken. We're all broken inside, and we come into this world broken, is what I've learned. So
yes.
for me to feel like to understand that and feel like I've been broken down, I've been beat down, I've been, you know, all these pieces that I've been trying to put back together and cover up with, hair and nails and fast food and whatever. They're just broken pieces that I've been trying to put together.
And now you
So,
have.
and now I have put them together, and I'm like, will forever have broken pieces because there's going to be new hurdles and new challenges. And
That's
then
right.
when you're called by God to do something, it seems like soon as you're in the midst of doing something, getting over something, he's showing you something else where he needs you to um to work on something else. So I feel like we'll always have broken pieces. And this book right here that I wrote, I have a lot of broken pieces in it. A lot of broken pieces. And sometimes I feel like I have broken them before again.
Mm,
I feel like, but then I got to go and heal those pieces and put them back together because it's necessary.
yes. So
It's
one of my
necessary.
favorite quotes out of the book, I'm going to read it to you. And I feel like this is kind of the cusp of some of the pieces being broken. I don't want to give the story away. People really need to read the book.
Yes.
But I do hope you have your tissue because this is kind of a tearjerker. So
Ah,
let me see what chapter this is
I
in.
got two right here.
So this is chapter 2. And I'm just going to read this brief excerpt. And I want you to be able to speak to the difference between how you felt in this moment and where you are now, having healed the brokenness that followed this.
Okay.
Okay, so it says, I felt like we had just been handed a death sentence by the guys who entered our family home with the assistance of my own immediate family.
Hmm.
Now, I can't read anymore because, again, I don't want to give it away, right? I want the people to go and get your book and read it because it's amazing.
Wow.
It's like right on the precipice of things kind of going in the opposite direction.
Yeah. Um, that's a lot right there. That's definitely a lot. Um, that part when I was writing that part, that was kind of the last thing I wrote. Like I had been writing and then I would go around like, up,
Yes.
not today.
Yes, I
Oh, that's
remember
not
I would
happening.
go back and be like, Tink, you have to dig into this more.
Yeah, I was just like, not today. And I think that was the part that took my book the longest to get wrote.
That was
And
one of
I
those
don't,
big onions.
it was one of the biggest onions yeah, it was one of the biggest ones that, where you win a prize. Like it was like, it was just, it just seemed like it was getting bigger and bigger. And my heart was breaking even more when I had to think about writing it.
Hmm.
Um, to feel like, I don't want to give it away either, but when
I
I
mean,
was
feeling like you've been handed a death sentence, like you said.
yeah, I felt like my life was over. I felt like we are about to be gone with no history other than the people in my family knowing who we are. And my daughter, I just felt like it was over. It was over. My short 21 years was over. And and the and the and to be betrayed the way I was
Hmm.
by a family member, that was the most hurtful thing that I could have experienced, especially at 21, where, family's everything. You grew up with all these people, laugh, joke, play, cut cornbread with them, play games. And then for someone to, turn their back on you, it was just like, I don't have nothing to live for. I don't have really
Mm.
anything to live for, even though, my parents, I had my mom and my grandma, and my daughter. I felt like my life was over. Like, okay, if this is how he feels about me, how is anybody else loving me? Like it was
Mm.
just that one person that made me feel less than in a way I've never felt before.
And that was now, so at that time, your daughter was she one?
15 months,
She okay, she was just barely one, and now she's how old?
18. So that was
18.
17 years ago.
17 years ago. And so I know when I talk about my story, I always say it seems like it was a lifetime ago.
Yeah, it does.
And
That's
so
so true.
now when you now having written it and being on the other side of it and seeing, I mean, the amazing young lady that Justice has become and all of the great things that she's doing, and you just being able to thrive even still. How do you describe that transition?
All I can say is God is good. Even though, and I didn't know then that I know, like when I was there, I wasn't where I am spiritually or religiously or however a person wants to look. I wasn't there. I wasn't praying. I wasn't asking God, please help me. I wasn't doing any of that. So for me to go from that to where I am now and to see my baby, doing her own thing and trying to succeed and be successful and be somebody and her work ethic, all I can say is God is so good. Even though we didn't see why he allowed certain things to happen or go on in our life, there's a reason why. And I just know that had I given up, had I kept that same mindset, had people like you and Tyra and all these different people not put their hands on me to get me across the finish line, I would be probably on drugs. I would probably be just in and out in different relationships, anything that could have come out of trauma, PTSD,
Mm-hmm.
um, anything that could have come out of that, just being fatherless or, my daughter, like she was able to get the foundation that she needed. God broke me down, had me down in those valleys and
Mm-hmm.
brought me closer to him and bringing me up the way I needed to come up. Like just because you went through one thing, that does not mean that you have to look like what you've been through.
I know that's right.
You
And you
don't have to
look
look
good,
like
girl.
that. Thank you. I cut my hair. I did. And that's how I feel now. Like, I want people to see how I feel on the inside, on the outside. I
That's
want
good.
I
That's
want people to see that.
because when we initially started talking, you were saying how you were outwardly covering up the pain and the brokenness and the broken pieces. So, how does it feel now to be just exposed, right? Because now people can pick up this book, and of course, everybody doesn't know Lakeenah Le'Shae, but the people who know, right?
Right.
The
Right.
people who know Tink know. And there was a lot of people at that book launch, and that's not even including the random people on Amazon or people who couldn't make it. So now the
Right.
world knows. So how do you
Yes.
feel having um, taken off the mask and the facades?
Um, it kind of like, I don't want to say it backfires sometimes, but I'll be sitting talking and then I'm ready to go and not preach, but go and like give some wisdom. Like, no, we about to have this day be a good day. We ain't about to sit here and dwell in, oh, this, whatever is going on. And I'll say something and then I'll be like, and I'll say it, and then I'll be like, you wrote that in your book. I remember you reading that. Yes, we are going to have a good day. We are going to do this. So it's just like now people are using my words, even though they were listening to me before when I was trying to encourage whoever, they're actually already using them for themselves to get through the day or to encourage themselves.
Mm,
And it's like, wow, this is really paying off. And one thing that comes to mind, I was at work after the book launch, and my coworker tells me she read the book in one day. Now I was mad that she told me she read the book in one day because she was at work. She was at work, so that meant that the staff was overworked because you wasn't doing your part. But you read my book in one day, and it was one of those days where, and you know what? Okay, let me go back. It was one of those days where I needed to be encouraged, and my
mm,
coworker encouraged me with my own words 3 times in one day. In one
wow.
day. So it's just like it comes full circle sometimes. And then I was like, wow, I think I need to read my book again so I can get some encouragement from my own words, but read it as a person on the outside, not actually who went through what I went through.
And I just want
So
to say how powerful that is because just like you said, leaving the VIP day, you recognize how much more power your story had than you were giving credit for, right?
yes,
So it was
yes,
one thing to realize it then when you were in the process, but now to have
yes,
people coming to you and letting you know and reminding you, also encouraging you the way that you've encouraged them and seeing
yes.
that boomerang effect, right?
The boomerang effect. That's just what it is. And you're so right. And we're easy because we're creatures of habit. We can fall back into habits, old ways, and not even realize. So one of the things that she said to me was, are you drinking that Mountain Dew because you're thirsty? Or are you drinking that Mountain Dew because you don't want to eat?
Mm.
And I was just like, I'm throwing this Mountain Dew away because I don't know if I don't know what it is because I had just gave birth to my
Mm.
book. So I didn't know what it was, but that was my go-to
Mm.
to give me energy. So I threw that Mountain Dew away. So it's like, okay, God is good.
Yeah,
God is
yeah.
good.
He's just
He's good.
reminding you of how he's using you.
Yes.
But what about the
And
freedom that comes with now just saying, like, it's out? I did it.
the freedom, I got chills. I feel real free. I feel like it's okay that I went through what I went through, and I shouldn't be ashamed.
No, you
I'm no
should
longer
not.
ashamed like I thought I was when I was going through and hiding and not going to this area and not going to that area. Oh well, I'm divorced. It's okay. I'm still great.
That's
Like
right. That's
I'm
right.
still going to be okay. God is going to send me somebody, and I know He is because He told me, and His promises are yes. So I feel so free, Tiff, to the point that I'm okay that people know my story.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay that people know my story. I'm okay that um, I went through what I went through with my family and those strangers. I'm okay that, you know, my ex-husband did how he did me, and I'm okay with saying that I wasn't ready to be a wife. I wasn't ready, but we wanted to do it. I'm okay with, you know, being fearful. I'm okay with that. But now I'm not afraid anymore. So by me
Mm-hmm.
being transparent and me going through and going to different churches and things like that, I was able to get freed in so many areas. So it was like a setup.
Mm.
It was a setup for me to be where I'm at now because had I missed some of those steps and not went to this church and not got fed this way and those people didn't talk to me, I would probably be still ashamed or still be living in fear that people were going to judge me and probably wouldn't be finished my book. So,
And people wouldn't be getting the blessings that they're getting.
and people would not be getting the blessings. Like I get so much feedback all the time now, even from a stranger that
Mm-hmm.
found me on, let me tell you this, found me on Instagram through somebody else that posted my stuff and wanted to message me how she felt about my story. Now, this woman is a little bit older than me, but she said it encouraged her. And if she can ever get the chance to meet me, she would love to meet me.
Wow.
And then another thing, one of my people from work, I took her husband's blood. She found me on Google, found my phone number, not telling people to Google me, but found my phone number. It was my old house number and it was my cell phone number I have now. She found me and said her husband was talking about blah, 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 my story. And she wanted to reach out to me to help give her some insight on how to write a book.
Wow.
Perfect stranger. Perfect stranger.
Look at that.
Perfect.
And that wasn't even part of the impact you necessarily were trying to make, right? By
It was
sharing your
not.
story. But you
It
never know who's watching you. You never know who you will encourage with one act of obedience.
and that's it. And that's what I always teach my kids. You never know who's watching. So always be um on top of how you're carrying yourself, what you're saying, what you're doing. Sometimes we mess up, but always pay attention to what you're doing. And all I did was took that man's blood, gave him some conversation, heard him say something about God, and I took off. I took off in conversation, and now his wife, blessings chase are starting to chase me down.
That's what happens. Blessings will start to chase you down. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And so I'm
So
curious, excuse me, one of the biggest questions that I get from people is about the response that other people will give you when you write your book, right? Specifically,
mhm,
those people who know you. And
right,
I always tell people that you can't control anybody's response to how you
right,
share your story, right? And
right.
for me, it was very important for me to speak with my children about what I was writing and make
Mhm.
sure that they were comfortable and understood why I was writing what I wrote. So I'm curious as to what kind of conversations you had with your children and how their support impacted your ability to move forward and finish the book.
So, whenever I was writing and it was coming to a head, like after I contacted you, I was like, okay, we need to talk. So my son, being as young as he is, he wanted me to read the book to him. So I started reading the book, but he likes that mommy and me time.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I gave the book, I made a copy of it and gave it to Justice and had her read it. She didn't finish it at the time because it was too much for her. So
Yeah,
I
she had
don't
to
even know
take
if
it in doses.
she had to take it in doses. And I told her, I said, you know, if there's any questions you have, I'm willing to answer. I said, because everything's not in the book. I said, so I'm willing to answer. I said, but I want you to look at look at it before I publish it. And if you're not comfortable with it, we'll go from there. And then same thing with my son. So I had to give my son a different conversation due to him being as young as he is and
Mm-hmm.
his dad being my ex-husband. So I had to give respect as much as I can because I still do have a child looking at me.
That's right.
And I still have to have a relationship with his father. So I had to like kind of baby that with him. And whenever I gave him, and that conversation is so necessary so they could be prepared with their emotions.
Right.
So by giving them those conversations, they were able to learn me and understand why I am the way I am, why I parent the way I parent, and appreciate me more now that they know my story. They
Did they have
appreciate the
any
way I parent them.
apprehension? Did they have any apprehension to you sharing it?
Um, Not really, maybe a little bit, but not really because the way when they seen it was going into effect, they were like encouraging me, Mom, what do you need? Do you need anything? Mom, it's
Mm-hmm.
okay. You're going to help people. And then my son, being a little, little deacon, he's like, Mom, we're going to change the world. And then he's like, we're going to be able to afford to live in different places and travel all over. And I'm going to be going to getting homeschooled.
Come
Like
on and
he's
prophesy.
yes, he was saying all this, and then he was just like, he didn't finish reading the book, but we might do that this weekend. But he was just like, Mom, I can't believe that you went through that. Like, I don't think he knows how deep it was what me and Justice went through. But
Mm-hmm.
because of what kids say different things, and it's like they don't even realize what they're saying. Like, that's deep. You shouldn't be. That's really not a thing that's funny. And I don't want to give the story away, but he was like, Mom, you really went through something. Did my dad really do that? And I'm just
Yeah.
like, he did, but your dad, he wasn't ready for what he wanted, and I wasn't either. So it was easy for me to, still show my ex-husband some grace.
Yes. Yes.
And I
Yeah.
will continue to do that.
I had a very similar experience. My children aren't that far apart in age the way yours are, but
Hmm.
my older son is a lot more mature. And
Right.
so I didn't read it to Ziggy. He basically got the Cliff's notes from his brother because he read
Oh.
like verbatim. Like when I finished my manuscript and I like printed it out and I had it in my hands and he wanted to read it. So I let him read it. He gave his brother the Cliff's notes. And my baby was just like, do you need an illustrator? Because this girl in my class can draw. And
Oh,
then he was
wow.
like, how much money are you going to make from this book? Like, that was his primary concern. Like, do you need, I
Wow.
can help you with an illustrator so that we can get to this money.
And this is the different, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
As opposed to, like you said, my older son having a lot more questions. Now,
Right.
we had conversations collectively, the three of us, but they
Hmm.
were overall very supportive and they
Yes.
understood because we've always had conversations. So I just wanted you to share that because I think people get so afraid, right?
Hmm.
They get
Hmm.
so blocked
Yes.
by their own mind telling them that they're going to get a negative response that they
Yep.
end up feeling like they have writer's block.
And that's a real thing. I was thinking about, and I remember talking to you about it, that and you told me you can't, your story's your story. You can't sugarcoat anything with your kids. And they were the only ones I was really concerned about, my kids. Like, I don't care about the rest of y'all. I was worried about my kids. And then second, I was worried about um the one family member in my book. I was worried about his kids as opposed to him. I didn't care about him. That's I forgave him and he didn't even ask for forgiveness. So that forgiveness was for me. So I was just worried about his kids. So with that
And
being said,
how'd that go with his children?
fine. Well, I didn't
Good.
talk to all of them, but the ones that I'm closest to, that I made sure that I, said something to them, and we call each other sister. She said, Tink, you got to do what you got to do. That was not your intentions. That was, his intentions. So you have to do what you got to do. And I'm not mad at you. Your story is your story. And I'm sure I can have a story that I would have a story to tell as well concerning him. So, it's not just me that this person did this to, but this different on a different level. So yeah, everybody was fine. And I haven't had not one negative thing said to me about my book. I'm sure it will come, but I don't
Right.
invite it in. But I haven't had any negative feedback about my story.
So what would you say to the person who right now is struggling with the fear or where to get or where to start or whether or not they even have a story worth telling? Somebody who, like you said, is being chased down by God, but kind of trying to run faster. What would you say to her if she's listening?
I would say slow down. I would definitely say slow down. Pay attention to what he's saying to you and take it in. And once you take it in that he's really coming after you, because he's going to keep coming. Once you know that he's choosing you, just say yes. And once you say yes, let him do his work.
Mm,
Let him do his work. And he will make a way. Like whenever I first did my class with you, my VIP day, I was like, where am I going to get this money from? I don't know where I'm going to get this money from. Like, there's no way. I'm already living check to check. This is not happening. And Tiff and y'all, when
you
I
paid it
tell
off
you,
early.
I paid, yes, yes, the blessings started coming. I made the deposit when I was on vacation, and Mitch, when I say Mitch made it happen out of the blue, and I forever, when I say Mitch called me out the blue, text me and said, I need to send you something. I'm like, okay, but this is what Mitch does. He sent me some money. That was your deposit. Had no clue where this money was going.
You just
And
said yes.
I just said yes. I had just literally said yes. I got to California in March of 19. Mitch sent me that money. And then I get, like, it's just crazy. Then my mom, and then it was me. It was just like me. It was just crazy. And it wasn't like child support or anything like that. It was just
It
money
was
falling
just
in my
God.
lap. It was
Yes.
just God. It was
It
just
was just
God. And
God. How quickly, once you said yes and you
yes,
got into alignment, that He made everything fall into place in perfect
everything.
timing. No stress, no
None.
struggle.
It was none. I didn't miss a beat.
It
I
starts
didn't
with
miss a
one
beat.
yes.
And it starts with one yes. And I will always be grateful for my yes, because that
Mm-hmm.
yes is going to open up so many doors. Even though it took me 3.5 years, I didn't actually say yes. I didn't say yes the right way with
Mm-hmm. You're
action
doing it in
behind
your
it.
own strength then.
Yep, I was doing it in my own strength. And that's what I did not do with this book. When I said yes, I was not doing it in my own strength no more. He told me that he would provide. All I got to do is ask for help. And even when I wasn't able to ask for help, help came to me and said, I'm here to help you. Like, it was just
Provision for the
crazy.
vision. Yes.
Yes, it was so crazy. And it's just, all I got to say is you have to say yes. You have to say yes. And I know this is just the beginning. And that's why I felt so knocked down after the book release, because I already feel him doing something else inside of me. I
Mm-hmm.
already feel it. Like he's just telling me to rest in him now. Just rest in him.
Because He's going to prepare you for what's to come next.
And after I rest, then you text me and ask me. But I did what I needed to do when he told me to rest.
That's right.
And then here we are now. You told me to rest. No, mom, don't. Yeah, I rest. I rest. And when I rest, then this came. So I'm just, now I'm like greedy for the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
I'm greedy. I live every day with expectations of seeing God. And that might sound crazy. You shouldn't expect anything. Well, from him, I do.
That's right. And you
I
and you
expect
should
him.
live with expectation every day,
Yes. They say,
even in the midst of broken pieces.
even in the midst of broken pieces, even in the midst of it, I'm still trying to survive. But I didn't get most of my, what is it called? My return back yet. But I'm okay because I can see that my story is serving.
Yes, it's so much bigger.
It's not about I gave away so many books, but it's serving. Like I'm doing his work. I'm doing what he told me to do. So I don't it's not about the money right now.
So tell me, I know that you included a little bit of this in your book, but for those that haven't purchased it yet, if there was one song that would be on the soundtrack for Broken Pieces, the movie, when it gets to Netflix,
Mhm.
what song would absolutely positively have to be part of the soundtrack?
First I'll say I'll receive that. It will
Mm-hmm.
be on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
Um so there's actually two songs that come to mind if I can. So the
Mm-hmm.
first one is I Don't Look Like What I've Been Through by Dion Kipping, if I'm
Okay.
pronouncing that last right. And I really, feel this in my spirit because I don't look like what I've been through.
No, you do not.
So, so I think that is very important for my journey. And then my second one is it's called Falling in Love with Jesus by Jonathan Butler,
Okay.
spelled
That's
without
one
the
of my next
H.
songs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I mean, I can't have those two songs not on the soundtrack, as you said. Like those two songs are very important because I don't look like what I've been through. And the only reason I don't look like what I've been through is because I fell in love with Jesus and what
Mm,
he's done for
come
me.
on and talk about
So so I have to have those two songs. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it because they're both important in this journey. Both of
it.
them.
And who would play Lakeenah Le'Shae
Ah,
in the movie?
well, I know y'all know Taraji P. Henson and
Mm-hmm.
how she gets into character. Like the way she played the aunt from what is it called? I Can Do Bad by Myself, I think is
Mm.
what it was. The way she got so emotional in that play about when her mom or in that movie when her mom passed and when she had to put that boyfriend out, like she was so into character. And that's I got chills for myself. Lord Jesus, she really gets into her characters. I mean, she makes you feel all the pain. I mean, I've cried every time I've seen that movie.
I love Taraji. Her book is good, by the way. If you haven't read it, it's a
I
good
That is on
read.
my list. That
Yeah,
is
it's a good
on my
read.
list. And I couldn't, you know what? I couldn't read certain books
While you were
while I was
writing,
going through because I was too emotional. And I
yes,
would have, I would have harbored all that. So I do need to read that one.
yeah, it's a good
So
one.
my
I
girl
could see
Taraji.
Taraji, but you know who else I could see playing you?
Who?
Regina King.
Oh
I could see Regina King.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I can see Regina. I can definitely because she's like my girl from the hood. Like
Yes.
Taraji is too,
Yes. But she's on
but
the other side, right? I
she
think they both
is.
have had that journey, right? That
Yes,
around the way girl journey.
yes, Regina definitely. Oh yeah, I
Like
almost slept
poetic
her.
justice.
Yes. Oh my goodness. And that I just see him in that postal van. Yes, I can
Yes.
see. Yes, I can see her too. Like I would be honored if they could do it because
Okay.
they bring that they bring that pain to life.
Yes. Yes.
I can see
Yes.
that. I like that. We'll take one of them.
So, what one book beyond the Bible, and of course beyond Broken Pieces, because we're going to make sure that
Hmm.
people get Broken Pieces. What one book do you recommend everybody read?
But what I just finished reading, It was called What Happens When You Say Yes to God.
Who wrote that?
And her name is Lisa,
Lisa
and it's spelled with
Turkers?
a yes.
Yes. She
Really,
wrote a
Tink?
book that's called What Happens When Women Walk in Faith. Baby.
Really? Oh, I gotta get that. So yeah, and it's crazy because my someone from work that I met, who we have phone numbers now, each other's phone numbers, she introduced this book to me.
Okay.
She sent it to me, and it was like so powerful to me. Um, it was so powerful, but I need to read something out of it. It was so powerful, and it spoke volumes to me. And on one of them, she spoke about how tragic it is to miss God's divine appointments.
Mm.
And when I read that, I was just like, oh my gosh, I've had so many encounters where I know it was nothing but God. And I even speak about it in my book about how um, if I wouldn't have did this, or if I would have did this, I would have missed some appointments down Market Square. I would have missed
Mm.
different appointments. Yeah, I called off from work this day, but it was so necessary because it was a setup. So that's one of the things that is very important, where you need to be where you're supposed to be at the right time. And
Mm.
then in one part of her book, she said, each person who crosses your path, each encounter with him as an divine appointment, each day counts, and every action and reaction matters. God absolutely loves to take ordinary people and do extraordinary things to them and with them.
Yes.
So, with me feeling like I didn't have much to live for, he's doing something very extraordinary in me. I would have never thought I would be an author without a degree.
Without a degree. Come on. Divine
I would have
appointment.
never. It was a setup from birth. I would have never thought I would be an author, because guess what? Where's that period go?
But listen, the word says that his ways are higher than your ways and his thoughts are higher than your thoughts.
And once you get that through your head, there's nothing that can stop you. Yep, I speak Ebonics, but I love it because I reach people with my Ebonics sometimes. So guess what? Correct my grammar if you want to. I'm okay with it. I'm gonna laugh with you. I
Mm-hmm.
pronounced that wrong. So keep your eyes on him and say yes. Wow, that's how it gotta go.
So what is next for Lakeenah Le'Shae and Broken Pieces?
There's so much that I want to do. Um, I don't know what the steps are, but I would like to either, of course, I'm shooting for the stars, but I would like to make a play if I can.
Mm,
I have to figure out how that goes or how that happens. I would like to start doing some speaking
mm-hmm.
engagements to encourage people. I would like to go and start branding myself more. I just want to be a voice for him, and I want him to continue to use me on all different platforms. So I would definitely like to do some speaking engagements just so I can encourage people, because every day somebody's looking like and feeling like they can't go on and they don't want to go on and they're not enough. So I want to encourage people to do better and keep counting on them.
Well, I know that anybody who has been listening to this episode is going to be encouraged and probably ready to pick up their laptop or a pen and give it another go. But I want to give you an opportunity to leave the listeners with either your favorite quote or your favorite scripture that encourages you when you're feeling down or when you in the past have felt like quitting.
Okay, so again, they're coming in twos.
Okay, I'll
So the
take
first
it.
one is Second Timothy 1:7. And it says, for God has not given us a spirit of fear,
Yes.
but of power and love and a sound mind. Um, I lived in fear forever until one day I was at church at one of those divine appointments, and I said, I will no longer worry about if I'm going to die, because He's not done with me.
That's right.
So I gave up that fear. That's that fear, and I've been living even more. Still, with His leading, but that spirit of fear is no longer inside of me.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jeremiah 29:11, He speaks and says, "For I know the plans that I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope in a future." So that scripture right there, I'm living it. I'm
Come
living it.
on.
I'm living it. And I am living that scripture right there, because I'm better than I've ever been in life. I've never loved me like I love me now. I know God loves me. I know I'm his favorite.
Come on.
I know I am. And I can start to see some of the things that he promised me. I'm starting to see it. I'm starting to feel it. And I know that I was told a long time ago by somebody about a light. There's a light that shines differently on his children. And I'm starting to feel like, and I'm getting feedback that there's something different about me, and not that pregnancy glow either. So,
well,
not that.
maybe spiritual pregnancy.
Yes,
Not
there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. And I'm feeling it, because people flock to me. They love me. They're telling me they love me. My donors, "I love you, babe. I'll see you in 2 weeks." People don't, and I've been like, "I love you too." And I know that they care about me. I know that they do. And I know that they mean it. So guess what? I'm gonna receive it. Yep, they love me because I love them, and that's how God wants us to feel about each other, love each other.
Yes.
So yes, those are my two scriptures.
And that one thing you always say, I want you to wrap it up with that. When I gave you the mic at the book launch and you sat down and you said, "If I tell you," I want everybody here to know.
What I said and what I believe is, if I've told you I loved you, that means I really meant I love you. I love you. And I'm not taking that back. So even if you did something to me, I still love you. I still love that family member. I still love my ex-husband, but not in a way of relationship wise. But I love you because God puts it, he made me a love child. So yes, if I told you I loved you, Tiff, I love you.
I love you too. And I'm so
I love you.
grateful to have been a part of your journey. And I'm excited about what is to come. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thanks, Tiff. Thanks for having me. I can't wait to come back with the next thing. So
I
thank
know
you so
that's
much.
right.
Because I'm coming.
I know that's right.
Thank you guys for listening to my words.
Can you not just feel the glow and the spirit through her words, and as she shares so transparently and so jubilantly about her journey? I really do pray that you were blessed with the power of Broken Pieces with Lakeenah Le'Shae. Of course, I strongly encourage you to get her book. It is available on Amazon and her website. The link to purchase will certainly be in the show notes. And if you are interested in the VIP day experience that Lakeenah spoke about, or any other assistance, accountability, coaching you need to get from your test to your testimony, to stop starting and stopping and starting and stopping, and really birth the book that you know God is chasing you down to share, then you can schedule your breakthrough session with me so that we can talk about how we can work together to birth your baby, your first baby, in the form of the book once and for all. I am so grateful that you are here with us today. Would love your feedback. Any questions, you can email me or DM me in these social media streets. And of course, you can join us in the Facebook group and we can dig even deeper into all that Lakeenah has shared today. And of course, before I let you go, I have to let you know God is not going to play you. But if you are hoarding the power of your broken pieces out of fear or shame, then I can assure you, you are playing yourself. Be blessed.